All right, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you're at. Welcome to this presentation by the American Topical Association, and I'm going to probably have to stop every now and then. I'm getting over a cold. Pardon me for that. Today we have a presentation by one of our favorite presenters and favorite people, Felix. He's going to be presenting on Meet the Todidae family of the Greater Antilles. So we're talking birds. So the first thing I'm going to do is mute everybody. And I will ask Felix to unmute and Jennifer if she has anything else to add.
Yes, I would just like to make a little plug for any of you that are here this evening that are not ATA members. Now is the time to join. For any new member that joins in the month of March, which we're almost at the end of March, you will be entered into a drawing for our handbook, What's First, which shows the first stamp of, I think it's over 800 topics. It's quite a neat book. So all new members will be entered in a drawing and one will win that. So anyone who joins in the month of March, so now's the time to join. So, all right.
And I will make one last statement that Felix asked that I put his email into chat. So I'm going to do that through the presentation a couple of times. It is beyondtheperf@gmail.com. So Felix, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you for saying that email. The purpose of that is so you can send me your ATA application so I can approve it and let you be an ATA member. Okay, let me hit my share screen first before I start talking here. Okay, hello everyone, welcome, especially the ATA members and future ATA members. My name is Felix. Today I'll be talking about the Todidae family. It's a group of 5 birds, 5 species. They're endemic to the Greater Antilles. And that first image you see on my screen from the left is representing Cuba as the Cuban todie, Jamaican todie, broad-billed todie, which is part of, you see that connection in the middle, that means they're part of Hispaniola, which is Haiti and Dominican Republic. And then finally, Puerto Rican todie, which is, that's the one I focus on. But since I had the privilege to do this presentation, I said, let me include them all because they're part of the Caribbean. And if you ever do travel there, it'll be a great place to visit. I use the bottom, you see these flags because I collect that's a topic. The main intent is I want to kind of make it formal and also to send a message on the historical stuff. You see there, the United Nations issued those flags for section of Puerto Rico. The reason for that was that the flag stamp series was created in 1980, and then in 1989, it stopped when they approved every flag. The exception was Puerto Rico. That's because in 1952, they ratified the Constitution, and it was approved to make Puerto Rico a Commonwealth in 1952. Then in United Nations, 1953, went ahead and removed Puerto Rico, but not from the regular territory list. Just they no longer was a non-self-governing territory. So I move on to the next slide. It's going to be the kind of the agenda. And of course, if you know me, it looks like I'll go talk about something else and I'll come back eventually, but this is the areas I'm going to cover. The 5 W's is the who, the what, when, why, and how. KCA, that's just levels of understanding, and this is basically knowledge. And eventually, if you do article stuff, you have some comprehension to apply it, and A's for application. Of course, again, the todies we have 5 todies, key facts, sizes, breeding, lifestyle. I'm going to touch that a little bit. And then, of course, focuses on the stamps from the 5 locations, and then of course the Puerto Rican todie and resources and summary of the courses and comments. And that's just a quick of the slides and stuff I'm going to cover. All right, my 2 areas that I collect. For those who know me, I really focus on Mississippi and Puerto Rico, and this 2 stamps right here, the 1818, that's when I retired, and it has 20 stars. And of course, you had the one from Puerto Rico, the star, that's 21. That's my favorite number. So those are the tourists I focus on, but I specialize on the Mississippi, on the 5 cents there, which is the Magnolia. And then the other one is the Puerto Rico. That's the first stamp I started collecting in 1998. And I was only 29 years old, so I didn't start when I was young. Now, the intent overall is to to teach here. And since I'm talking about Mississippi, I want to make sure that everybody understands, if you ever visit Mississippi, this is not our state bird. This is just an insect here. And if it was a state bird and the todies were here, we will have no insects in Mississippi because that's the main diet. This is the actual bird for Mississippi, and that's our mockingbird. And that's our state bird. All right, 3 things that I always promise that when I give a presentation, 3 things that will guarantee that happen. We're going to learn. That includes myself. We're going to travel. We're going to connect. When we connect on this one, you're going to see how I was able to connect ornithology, which is the studies of birds, photography, those that take photos, whether they're birding or actually as a sport, bird watching, and also how we connect philology, all 3 into one. Also, since there's 3 things, something's going to happen also. We're going to have fun. This is a stamp set from the alphabet for New Zealand. So you see F-U and N. And then since we learned last week about hashtags, I just added that hashtag to emphasize the importance of having fun and stamp collecting. Now, 3 things I said was going to connect. You'll see here that stamp collecting, our hobby, how it's going to help promote and teach about the Todidae family. Also, how I worked with photographers from Puerto Rico, and they allowed me to use their photos, and also videographers from Puerto Rico that are much more subject matter experts. And then also I use this card here because I also collect postcards about ornithology, and you see there's a binocular. So I guess this bird here approved those binoculars. So if we buy them, they approved it 100%. Now the thing is, why this topic? And of course, in 2017, Hurricane Irma Maria, and for the record, I had never seen this bird in person. It's probably seen me. I lived in Puerto Rico 3 years. I probably didn't pay attention, but I'd never seen this bird. It was not until 2014 when I started collecting this bird. And this is the sheet, one of the first sheets that I collected. Now, one of the reasons that I collected, I'm really focused on this like a cause to work on and work with the ornithologists and naturalists and scientists with Puerto Rico, is because it says Todos Mexicanos. When I first saw this stamp here, I was like, okay, let me Google it because I collect Hispanic Americans. And I was all of a sudden, instead of having a heart attack, I had like a stamp attack. And all of a sudden, Todos Mexicanos said, this bird is from Puerto Rico and it's endemic. So I was shocked. So I guess it's been an issue since 1838 when they did the studies. The French came over to Puerto Rico and studied birds around the world and came to Puerto Rico. That still, even though the appeal's been done, that the International Commission of Zoological Nomenclature still shows won't correct Todos Mexicanos to the proper name, which should be Todos Puertoricenses, or other name related to Puerto Rico, because it's endemic. And you'll see this bird so small that there's no way it can fly to Mexico. Now, I didn't want to call him out, but this is the person that made the error, and his name is Rene Primera Lesson. And it's kind of odd because it's a lesson, so it's kind of trying to teach a lesson that we had to correct this stuff here. But it was again, it was an honest mistake. Although the species endemic to Puerto Rico, it bears the scientific name Todos Mexicanos. The result of this era created a miscommunication in the early 19th century between 2 naturalists. And of course, Mr. Rene, he was a French surgeon, he's a naturalist, and he also was an ornithologist. And the thing was that the other person that made the mistake was his brother. So they got confused on the documentation, called the one from Cuba, the one from Puerto Rico, and they got all those scientific names, they got all mixed up. He was aware of it, but unfortunately, he passed away in 1849. So in 2038 will be the 100th anniversary of this era. So I'm trying to do an effort and using stamps to see if we can correct that name, but it's a whole process. It's not as easy as changing your own personal name. Here in 2014, this is when I got busy and started talking about what I thought was I found something new, but it was already there. At Todos Mexicanos, I wrote a post, and I kind of explained that you can't judge a book by its cover, just like the stamp. You might see a stamp, you might think it's Todos Mexicanos means Mexico, but you have to like peel the onion and look more into it and find out there's more information. That's what happened to me. And during that same time, I was preparing to go to Liberia for the Ebola under Operation United Assistance. So it took a while before I was able to get these stamps. And one of the reasons was because I was in Liberia, and when I was trying to buy stuff through eBay, they're like, sir, your address is in the States, but somehow you're showing that you're in Africa. I'm like, correct, I am in Africa. They worked with me. Eventually, I did get mail from the post office and got some items. And you'll see here that We have at the Army Post Office, so this is kind of piece of postal history, because we were only there from October to February during the Ebola. We were able to build the hospitals and come right back. So it was a good Operation Humanitarian Mission. And you'll see there that my box says 21. And that's because we have mail clerks and they say, first off, what number you want? You want number 1, number 2? I'm like, no, number 21. And that's my favorite number, so I got 21. And the good thing was when I got my Todies Mexicanos stamps, it's canceled at the back, the APO, December 21st, 2014. We got back in 2015. So that's postal history there. And then this is one of the envelopes that I received. And you'll see that, of course, that did a Victoria postmark, and all these was from the Posta Romana, Romania. And down here on the left on the cachet, you'll see it also says Todo Mexi and then Cuba. So that's kind of where the mistakes were made also on the documentation. Now, I had the fortunate in 2015 to be contacted by Professor Raul Perez, and he heard about what I was doing, my research on stamps. So we worked together on an article related to the birds of Puerto Rico. Now, when we look at birds, there's about 10,000 species, and some people say it's probably double that based on DNA testing, etc. So for Puerto Rico, it's about 350 species, and out of those are basically 18 or 19 right now that are endemic to Puerto Rico. Now, when you look at birds, you got to look at three areas. One is introduced, that they're brought, for purchase or brought into the country, and they're there. Migratory, they just come down, for vacation and go back, or they just stopping by, going somewhere else. And then you have the native. And for the Todidae family, they are part of native, but they're all specifically, they're endemic. And this bird, like I said, is only in the Caribbean and the Greater Antilles. The longest part of this presentation was that I wanted, for most of my presentation, I want to use maps, anything stamps related. I just don't want to just put a map in Google Map and promote them. I want to really focus on stamps. So I had some choices here. I looked at them. And of course, some of them, you can't really see the Caribbean, even though they all include the Caribbean. Some are missing some islands. And of course, the bottom left, you'll see the map there. It's all in green. But I couldn't really blow it up too much. And then all of a sudden, I see this one here is more antique. And you'll see Cuba, Puerto Rico sizing. And you see more Cuba closer to the United States. So that's from Vietnam. So I decided, thinking, and then through the thinking process, brainstorming, then I'm like, oh, I remember something. And then what I remember was that they issued a National Marine Sanctuaries sheet. And nowadays, they're collectibles. And I don't mean the stamps only. It's when you use the stamp, the sheet, the paint in the back, it's collectible. And this is what I'm talking about right here. This is a collectible. So I decided maybe I could use this, but I would have to blow it up. It wouldn't look correct. And according to Lynn's article, some of these are selling without the stamps, $2 to $6 on eBay, etc. So it's something you can use to teach. If you go to exhibit, you can put the front of the national sanctuaries in the back. So that's a sample. So then I had to find other option. Then, since I would collect topics and maps, I eventually found one that I really was going to use. And this is one right here. Now, of course, this is a virtual tour. We're not actually flying there. So on the left side, you see that Micronesia. And this is the topic, passports on stamps. So this is a great topic to start. And one thing that, if you do go, I recommend to use a passport. I always use a passport, and of course, because, no matter what I do, you shave, not shave, I always have to have a passport just to get through the TSA process. A camera is good. Now, if you were there for Dawn Hammond's about real photo postcards, this is the camera you need, not the one that she mentioned, because you're going to have to carry load that everywhere. Now, also here, you'll see a compass. It's good to have a compass and a good set of binoculars. And I suggest the one I showed earlier, approved by the Birds of the World. Now, here is a good sheet because you can see a lot. You see it clear. You see the names there. And also includes all these other extra topics. You see peppers. You see pineapple. So this is like a topical collector's dream. So let me go ahead and zoom here. And then travel, we could travel by ship, and there was a ship on the other one, and now also here by plane. Now, if I have my own personal plane, we'll be all going on a tour through all different islands and look about birds, learn about the Todidae. Now, when I was doing this, and I spent so many hours looking at that, sometimes I make connections without wanting to make connections, and then all of a sudden it hit me, and I started thinking about the Beach Boys. So, of course, with the Beach Boys, I was like, well, it's not Aruba, Bahamas, Jamaica, but then the biggest line was that I don't have auto-tune, so I'm not going to sing. So the biggest thing was that they had that line. There's a place called Kokomo. I was like, there's a place called Topical, so I was trying to make a connection there. But it didn't work out, so I didn't put no song, no auto tunes. And today the sound wasn't working, so that probably was a reason besides that. But that's a way to connect something else with what you're talking there. So just a bunch of topicals. That's why, even though I say I collect 2 topics, I really collect everything. Now here's the map blowing up, and of course you see here, you see major the 5 locations, and of course it's really when you look at Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Haiti, all that stuff, and Cuba, it's really archipelago because it's islands that are part of the main area nation there. So let's move on to the first stamps. Of course, Cuba, and I got there to count to help me count. We have 14 stamps from that country. Then you have Jamaica, and then I'll blow them up on the other slides. So Jamaica has a total of 7. Then you have Hispaniola. Now the thing here, Haiti never, if you understand that the post system in Haiti, since 2003, they have not issued stamps. And I could be wrong on that date. They did make an attempt years later, but it had to do with a hurricane and trying to raise some funds, but that did not happen. I'll explain that later. Now, there's 2 birds in Haiti. That's the only out of the 5 Todidaes that 2 that reside in Haiti. And that's is the narrow-billed and the broad-billed. Now, the broad-billed is more towards the lower elevations and the narrow-billed to the higher elevation. And there's also a difference there, and I'll show you here in a second. There's a little island right here below, and that's called Gonave or Gonav, and that's where also you'll find the broad-billed todies there. And since they didn't issue, the Dominican Republic has issued 3 total, and that's why you see that 3 there. But one of them relates to, they all relate to there, just doesn't say Haiti on the stamps. And of course, those are if you want to do a spelling bee stuff, those are good names for scientific names. And you can say, can I use that in a sentence? Well, it's going to be pretty hard, but I think it's pretty fun. Like I said, my vocabulary doubled based on this research on this here. Of course, and then Puerto Rico, the one I collect, and it has the toady. Now, the thing is that even though I mentioned all these countries and nations, etc., none of these birds are the official bird of the country or the nation. To include Puerto Rico, that bird was put there. It was a snapshot, and I'll explain that later on at the end of the slides. And that's the Todies puertorricenses. And of course, you'll see that I put an asterisk there because currently it's named Todies mexicanos due to an error made in 1838. So hopefully before 2038, it'll be corrected. Now, this one here is included on the birdthemes.org. They have a list. Of course, it's nothing compared to an ATA topical checklist, which we do have one for toadies. The toady that I have here was issued under the Unión Postal de las Américas y España. That's just basically the Postal Union of America and Spain. It has changed now. It also includes Portugal. But this bird here, even though I'll accept it, they include it under Puerto Rico, it kind of represents all the birds. So kind of represent all of them. And what the UPA does, it does a different theme every year, and it's based on different places. It was 1990, and it was in Madrid. And then, of course, Cuba had one, and Puerto Rico is not part of this because it's part of the U.S. And of course, it's UPA, and that's their logo. And now this is one of their caches. And of course, Primer Dia's first day of issue. And it's collectible. This one I have like the full sheet, everything you could think of. I had this collection here. Now here, I'm going to recognize the photographers. This one's first Mary Vasquez. She's one of the ones that you'll see majority of the photos are from. And of course, I'm connecting photography with ornithology. And here you'll see basically is a juvenile toady from Puerto Rico. And you'll notice one thing that they all have in common is basically their throat is like a ruby red. And of course, juveniles don't have that. And of course, they're in a burrow, and I'll explain there on how they live. And here's the other one, Dax Roman. He's a photographer in the Dominican Republic. So I was able to share 2 of these folders from his Flickr collection. And of course, this one here, which kind of have like an attitude from Puerto Rico, Sam Martinez, photographer, and I really like this one here. Now, some key facts that you'll see here. This is called a pull-out page, the left, and this is kind of supersized the middle. they do have them. The first one I ordered, the eBay listing was in English, but I didn't know that the card was in French. So I had to contact them and they sent me the correct one, which was in English. Now, these are good to have, but what I use now is Cornell Lab. They have more information and they focus everything in academia and birds of life and birds of the world. And of course, some changes here, sizes. It says here 4 to 5 inches, but it's actually 3.5 to 5 inches. And another thing is, like, as far as the longevity, how long they live, is really 14.5 years. Here it says unknown. And of course, related species are the 5. And you'll see here they all kind of have the what it got in common is the red throat. And of course, the other yellows, and the one that has the most colors is the multicolor from Cuba. So that's a pull-out page. Okay, here, when it the primary diet for the Todidae, and of course I'm focusing on Puerto Rico, is insects and spiders, and which are usually plucked under the leaves. They're great, and I call their bills like different pairs of tongues. You know, when you buy tongues for stamps, you got like the 802, that's my favorite one. Different kinds. So their bills like that, and they're made to get these insects and real quick, and they're good. I call them like the special forces of the Todidae family. Both sexes feed the young, and here you'll see that I have, because I collect by scientific name because sometimes it connects Puerto Rico. This here right here is the Anoles, and it's from Puerto Rico. It's a lizard. It's native, and it's also native to the British and Virgin Islands. And that's why I put a stamp here, making that connection. I put a Spanish spider because even though we have an official kind of spider in Puerto Rico, I didn't find a stamp yet, even though there's a lot of butterflies on stamps. Of course, in Puerto Rico, the notice is about 200 different species of lizard there. So they have, as far as least concerned in Puerto Rico, because they have a food source. Now, of course, you still have to worry about climate change. You still have to worry about deforestation because we don't have an accurate number on the population. Now, this here, more stuff that they feed on, and you'll see here a spider. And then this one, I kind of censored it because when I looked at it, and if you know me, I collect Mississippi, I collect honeybees, and it looked like it had a honeybee in his mouth. So I just put a regular stamp there and said, you know what, the queen bee. So I had to censor it, but it was like, if I was Elmo sad. You know, so that's there. Now here's from Mary Vasquez on the photo, and these are 2 photos combined. And of course, these birds travel in pairs. They're territorial, and the big difference between the male and the female is the iris. You'll see it's like white, sometimes grayish and bluish, but that's basically a pair there. And of course, the burrows, and you'll find there's near the coastal areas, up in the woods, up in different types of terrain, embankments, and that's kind of the where the little one, the baby there, is basically doesn't have a red throat until it matures, and usually takes 1 or 2 years for full maturity. And of course, most of these, as far as their mating season, is from February to through May, sometimes to July, and sometimes it's been extended depending because of climate change, etc. But that's the burrow right there. Here's a quick video. And right now, to build their tunnel, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to build it. And of course, once they use it, it's over. They might reclaim it again, but they usually leave because some other predators will take over. And then you'll see they work as a teamwork. Now, I can't co-sign on this, but when they're feeding their infants, they say the male feeds the babies more than the female. So I can't confirm that, but that's what I read in academia in the book there. But what they do is they feed based on per hour. The younger they are, they start feeding like 7 times, and they go up to 32 times per hour feeding. And then when they eat about 40% of their body weight. These birds do every day. And of course, if you get that lizard, that's probably 41%. Now, of course, that video was there from Jose and from Felisa, and they're, of course, they're the ones that create the festival in Puerto Rico. It's a festival every year at San Pedrito. Last year was the 3rd, and you have people there from artists, photographer, poetry, singers, everything else. They promote the San Pedrito because their intent, if you see here, esta petición means to sign a petition. So we've been working getting a petition signed so they can make the San Pedrito the official bird of Puerto Rico. Now, I talk about related. Now, of course, I was looking, this is kind of related. It's called a todi mot. It's kind of the closest related that's still living. But it's actually, the Todidae are supposed to be related to the Paleototus, and that has to do with 2.5 million years and epoch, etc. So that's like beyond my level of comprehension right now. But the thing is that the only thing I saw is Todimota, it does have, different colors. But when I thought moments, I was thinking about mots, the applesauce and stuff like that. So I was thinking about when mamat's there. But the biggest thing is that this is the one, and this is from Calle Echevarria, and these are found in the Central America, and this is from Guatemala. Now, since I was looking for the many birds, just like the Beach Boys, something similar happened. So here is the masked crimson tanager, and of course I made a connection once I saw that with Kiss, because I grew up in New Jersey, even though I'm Puerto Rican. My parents were born in Puerto Rico, and of course, if you know the Kiss, they unmasked in 1983, and I worked at McDonald's, and I dealt with a lot of concerts and buses, so I kind of knew all these groups, Bon Jovi, Kiss, and everything else. And these were just issued in 2023, so it was good that I waited to tell the Dawn I'll do it, March 26th, so I can get my stamps on time. So this is another bird there. Of course, 10,000 species. You got a big selection, and so I decided to come up with another slide there. Okay, the Todidae family, Cuba. There are two societies in the U.S., the Cuban Phonetics Society, and of course the ICPS. And then most of these stamps can be found on theme birds stamps, but later on I'll show you on what checklist you need to order to get it. Because the great thing about if you're a member in the ATA checklist, once you get updates, because I'm pretty sure that the one I found I'm going to send to the ATA, you can get an update checklist every year. So instead of going through all those books and all that stuff, then you can get a quick ATA checklist. So I'll be sharing that with everybody. Now here's a photo of the Todies multicolor, of course multicolor because multiple colors, but it's also known in Cuba as Caltacuba. Todidae, this is the first one that was issued, and it's part of a Christmas set in 1970, 71. And so this is the one from Cuba. I don't have the full sheet. I haven't seen the first day cover on that, because when you collect Cuba, sometimes you got to misspell it on eBay, or sometimes it's hard to get. Sometimes I'll order from Europe. It'll end up in Colombia, and then I'll send it from North Carolina. Don't know why, but luckily stamp collecting is not illegal. Okay, here's another one from Cuba. This is from 1976, Carta Cuba. And you see the multicolor. And of course, I wish there were photos because not many with the art really represent the actual beauty of the birds. Here you have another one from 1983 from Cuba, todos multicolor. Here's a cachet, and this is the one that they shared on the Topical Time in Cuba. And of course, this is the UPAP, includes Portugal, and that's 1995. And of course, covers the areas here. It's in America, so these are nice covers. Also postcards that you collect, Cuba. And here's what actual photo. Now you can use here, if you find this, I recommend it. If you at a flea market, a store, or at a stamp show, they did have a ATA handbook 106 about birds, and it has great information. But the thing is, this is an old book that doesn't have the latest updates, but it's a good book to have as a reference, especially when it comes to scientific names, because they do change. So moving on to Jamaica, and of course that's a Todies. And of course, they don't have a society, but they do have a West Indian Philatelist group. You just go to the website, they have articles, information, and of course, the Encyclopedia of Jamaican Philately. And of course, you can find these birds also through scientific names or family on themebirds.org. Here's the Rasta bird. That's the Jamaican bird. That's one of the names. It probably has more names, but this is the one that's listed on Academia. under the Cornell lab. Okay, Jamaica. Todie is also known as the robin redbreast there, even though I said the Rasta. Here's the cachet. Cancel first day in Kingston, Jamaica. And it's right here at the bottom. Now here, and I already said earlier that Jamaican todies is called todies, but sometimes when they do books and they do prints, it has a different name there. And most likely, and it happens a lot, especially with plants and everything else, that they'll change it, they'll rename it and kind of put it, classify it differently. And that's with the taxonomy. But the thing is that this one is a Jamaican toddy postcard, but it's canceled with the Dominican toddy or the narrow-billed toddy. Now, there's another reference you can have. This covers more of stamps that are not like Cinderella's, but are informative. These are books that are out there that cover most birds. This one I had because it has one of Puerto Rico, which is the woodpecker, campitero. So these books are good to have and collect. They have a very good information on them. Moving on to Haiti. On Haiti, like I said, I belong to the Haiti Philtech Society. And of course, that's over 300 members. And my goal is, of course, to make them an ATA study unit. And right now, the thing is that out of 300 members, only one is actually from Haiti. And I know a lot of stuff is going on in Haiti. And one of our goals is, of course, to promote. And if you see the postal history of Haiti, it's very interesting. Although it doesn't issue stamps, when we look at airmail and the history of Haiti on stamps, very interesting and important stamps to collect. And of course, here's the two birds because I combined them. They may not issue stamps, but I have the two birds, the narrow billed and the broad billed. And of course, there's another reference. Hasn't been updated, but it's also a good reference from Stanley Gibbons. And it also covers birds. And of course, no color images, black and white, but it's still a good reference to have. And you'll see variations again in scientific names and how they're listed. Moving on to the Dominican Republic. They do have a society, but they also have a blog, very important blog that I have shared on Facebook. And it talks about all the stamps they issued. And of course, they only issued 3. Again, the broad bill. And like I said, the broad bill lives in the lower elevations. And the two names there, the Chicui and Barrancoli. So the top one is Chicui and the bottom one, Barrancoli. And the difference one difference they have is the vocalization. If you listen to their sounds, their calls, and their songs, they have a different. Even though they're all considered harsh, I don't consider them harsh. Here's the Dominican Republic one, and this is from 1964. If you're looking at if they ever update the What's First book, this will be the What's First for toadies. This is the first stamp that has a toadie on it. And of course, you see here's like a darker color, so I don't know if it's era. But you'll see when I show the cachet, but this is the first one from the Dominican Republic. And of course, they issued the set, the Chiqui and the Barrancoli, and that's 1996. It's only the only three that have issued. And here's the cover. You see fauna in 1964, and you see it right here. It's got a little bit more green, less dark than the original photo I showed you, the stamp. Here's another reference. And this one is good because it has an article. This is like an old book, but it has an article from the ATA. Talk about we have 50 societies, all promotion. So it's in there in page number 5, talks about the ATA. So that's why I really kept it. Memorabilia, especially that we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of the ATA. And of course, the Todidae family, Puerto Rico. This is what I'm going to cover a little more in depth. And of course, I had this already prior to getting into Todidae Mexicanos. I had the stamp. Didn't bother looking at the bird. I was all focused about the flag, and that was in 2011. And that was set number 5. Now, the interesting part was that I was able last year to give more firepower, more evidence to the ornithologists in Puerto Rico to justify why the name should be corrected was because of some things I'm going to show you here in a second. But he's known as San Pedrito and Medio Peso. And that's San Peter. And medio peso, it's like half a dollar or 50 cents. But don't confuse 50 cents with 50 cents the wrapper, you know. So it's the happy birthday is, yeah, 75th anniversary, but don't confuse that. El medio peso is the coin. Of course, I did get ceremony programs. It's important to get ceremony programs as part of your collection because they extend information to provide more additional information to you. And here's an example. This is inside the ceremony program, and it includes information that snapshot art is colorful little bird, the Puerto Rican toddy. Here it says it's Puerto Rican toddy, but on the stamp doesn't say Puerto Rican toddy. It doesn't say the scientific name because they probably did the research, which is good, and the Citizen Stamp Rights Committee did the research, but it still mentioned it was a snapshot. So when I was trying to verify that, they were not saying that this is the official bird of Puerto Rico. They said this is something that's common in Puerto Rico, that is known because we have a festival, etc. So they use that. So this is kind of evidence, shows that it's Puerto Rican toddy, and there's no way that it's in Mexico. Here's another one that I collect. I know we had a presentation, I want to say not during the warm-up topicals, last year during the fall for topicals, and they talked about souvenir pages. I'm a member of the American Society for Field Pages and Panels. Hopefully I'll show the last slide of what I want to do next year, which is the Philtech displays. But this is a good thing to have because basically it's like a Scott catalog, one page for Scott catalog. It has all the information you need to know about the stamp. And there's also mentions again about the snapshot and the Puerto Rican toddy. So here you'll see that in addition to flag art, each stamp design included is a snapshot. So that's represent Puerto Rico. It says it's not limited to official animals. So that confirms it that Puerto Rico, the bird was not, they're not saying it's official. And of course, Puerto Rico and Puerto Rican toddy. And this was set number 5 of 6 sets. And of course, to find a stamp is one of the most expensive for Puerto Rico modern philately because it comes in that coil, and we don't want the whole every single. We just want the Puerto Rico one, and which it all came in as a full coil. So that's the hardest stamp to get, and of course, forever stamp, and it'll retain its value. But the thing is, they really become very expensive nowadays. And if it becomes official, that bird, then it's really going to be hard to get. Okay, here's some reference. This is kind of the ones that I recommend when it comes to the whole family. Even though they do have academia, the birds of the world on the Cornell Lab website, the thing is, if researchers don't update it with information, nothing gets really updated. But this book here is almost like an ATA handbook to a certain extent because it does have, at this time in that book, it has 24 stamps, even though it's 27, the actual list. And of course, possible more could be added if we want to include the photo stamps. But it talks about the whole family, actual documentation, and it was done by Jose and Felisa. And of course, they got the degrees in research and statistics. They got psychology. They got natural science, etc., and videography also. But of course, it covers all the birds in here. And like see Cuba, Dominican Republic, but it's both in English and Spanish, and it was reviewed by professors and scientists. So these are 2 good references to have, and these are available in Amazon. But I also have a book that I don't have them all, but this is one about all the birds in Puerto Rico, so it's a good reference to have. Because again, when people think I collected stamps first, no, I collected Hot Wheels cards first. Then my second thing was books, and then through books I learned through stamps. Now here. Since I've been collecting for a while, not as many people, I only got last year was my 25th year anniversary. You see this cover here, and this came in 2010 before the bird, the one with the Todidae flags of our nation. But this is what people see when I show them. They're like, okay, that's nice. Oh, who is she? Okay, poor, etc. But once you collect so much and you spend many hours, because I usually don't have time for a lot, but I always had time for stamp collecting. I don't know why. I always had time for that. And here you'll see, this is what I see. When somebody gives me a cover, I just start connecting stuff that I know, and I collect our coquí from Puerto Rico, and which is also endemic to Puerto Rico, our national flower, even though it was by Cuba, but they recognize all national flowers from Latin America, and of course the Puerto Rican toddy there. And also there's another stamp from Julio de Burgos from the Dominican Republic. So that's what I see. People just see a cover, and that's why I highly recommend if you're an ATA member, that should be the priority, but also American First Day Cover Society. It's a win situation, or the big 3, include the APS. But that's what I see and here you see we do have butterflies, the festival in Puerto Rico also, but it's not a stamp. I have not found it yet. So hopefully I'll find that stamp there, then I can complete this set here and make a 1-page exhibit next year. Here's another one. This is from Nerli Kundu, And of course, I went there to the World Stamp Show, only went for one day, but I took all these envelopes, got them all canceled, sent to him, and he went and painted them all together because I wanted to collect all the endemic birds from Puerto Rico. Now there's 19, used to be 18, but I was able to get all those done by him. I know Kundu. And so I really appreciated that. I try to get artists there. And if it's in pencil, that means it's the original one. The signature right there. Those are one of the cachets. He did another one for me here. And this is actually a copy. I had the original. And this was based on a photo by Miguel Angel Rivera. So most cachets will use other signs there. And of course, has the todies there. And since Puerto Rico, for some reason, I guess the USPS wanted to go vacation to Puerto Rico. So they said, hey, that's going to be the first day ceremony in Puerto Rico and in January. So they went there, warm up for topicals, and they went to Puerto Rico's, and the love stamp was issued. So even though it's not a stamp for Puerto Rico, if it's got canceled first day, it's coming to my collection to Puerto Rico. And you've been seeing this little QR code there. That takes you to information about the birds there. That's why I put that there. Okay, here, most important thing here, ATA checklist. Like I said, there's 10,000. There's 10,000 according to, not even Wikipedia, 10,000 species, probably even more. Now, if you're really interested in birds and you pick certain birds, there are so many stamps. There's 10,000 species. Imagine how many birds. For example, the bird for the honey creeper, over close to 1,700 stamps. The honey keeper, the parrots or parakeet, 2,000. Ducks and geese, almost 4,000. Endangered species, almost 3,000. This is stamps. Eagles, almost 2,000. And then toady, currently 23, but it's going to get updated once I send my information. And then the smallest one, the honey creeper, is only 5. So if you got a list from 5 to 1,000, and that's what I recommend, because the thing is that these checklists, you can predefine what you want. You can custom it. You could get whatever is available there. Exclusive stuff. And then the biggest thing is format. Sometimes people like using Excel only or PDF. So this is why it's important for topical checklists. Now, if you have stuff and find it, it's good to contact the ATA because sometimes we don't know every single stamp. Like you saw that sheet that I showed earlier at the beginning was a sheet with all those topics. Pepper on the selvage. Well, he didn't know about pepper. It's I got them all. No, you don't. Here's a pepper. Here's a pineapple. Here's a hammerhead, shark, etc. And then what's first? Because eventually this is a great book. What's first? It has a lot of information. Even first for Puerto Rico. But one thing is that we could always include more and increase it. So, like I said, that's why this presentation is important. So that's why I say join us, because it's the best hobby in the world. Join the ATA. And of course, visit us at theamericantopical.org. So that's kind of promoting the ATA there. And then, of course, you see the banner in the back. It's all about ATA, about the adventure. Okay, so here's another postcard. And this one, like I said, I went to the WA posters since I'm all about Puerto Rico. I went to Sasso, found these postcards. Said, hey, you know what? I'm going to cancel it because it's connection to Puerto Rico. And that's what I did with these postcards. I went to Hyde Park, New York. And those posters are part of the Work Progress Administration. They used to hire artists to design posters for various public projects. Now, these here, Sasso, these aren't, Sasso, even though in 2020, I was there from the beginning and stuff. And then one day, once I knew about these birds, I started, I don't know who took the photo. I just know they were available in Sasso, so I ordered them. And I'm going to send a few sets to the ornithologists in Puerto Rico that take care of San Pedro Festival to promote the hobby. And of course, I'll include a few applications for the ATA to get additional members. But this is one of the sheets there. This is another one that I had there. And if the name gets changed, these stamps are going to get used. If it gets renamed from Totidae something, these stamps will be on new covers. Now, of course, we all like to use AI. And of course, I had this thing, eventually I'll do presentation, ATA ambassador versus AI. But the thing is, I tried AI, and I told the AI, I was specific. I said, can you give me 5 birds, produce 5 birds for me, images, because I can't find photographers. Eventually I did. And this is what happened with AI. This is what they gave me. This is supposed to be the Cuba one, multicolor. But AI is still far behind there. This is not. If we're confused with Todies Mexicanos scientific names, we'll be really confused with these birds right here. But the thing I said I did, let me try AI. This one's kind of got the throat right. This is good. And of course, these birds do eat fruit also. They do eat fruits, but that's not the primary diet. Of course, here, The last artwork that I got was from Denise Toro. She's an artist in Puerto Rico, young artist, and she did that one there. And of course, I want to change that to my profile and replace my AT ambassador. I might do that, but that'll be temporary profile because I got to put my AT ambassador. So if you're looking for me, all you got to find out who's on Facebook with AT ambassador logo. And there's only one, me. If you see two, it's me because I have a backup. And of course, these art from eBay that I found, paintings. They all represent the Puerto Rican toddy. I think they're good to display, especially if you do a Philtech display to include these birds. And then this is one, Peru, when I travel. You know, they want to sell me stuff. I said, okay, can you make me a Puerto Rican toddy on art? And I said, okay, come back tomorrow. And then they did it for me. And I got this one done in Peru, showing some images. And this is watercolor. So the thing is that since I have so many stamps, you know, I could order always more stamps, but I can't order more walls. So I'm running out of walls. And of course, this is another one here from a famous artist like serigraph, Osvaldo de Jesus Cruz. He, of course, wants to promote Puerto Rico because we are proud of Puerto Rico. We're pro Puerto Rico. And this is, he created like a bank and he basically did the painting. And of course, this is number 111 from 200 that were made. These are also collectible, but these are good to make part of the display. Of course, not a official competition display because it's not really philatelic related, but a philatelic display, regular one, it's more than welcome because it takes them from the known to the unknown. Okay, another cause that I'm working on is the manatee. I know our president should be on there tomorrow, so hopefully she'll think about me because I collect the manatee too. But the thing is that when you look at a scientific name on this manatee, it's connected to Puerto Rico. Because even though Puerto Rico does not have an official bird, it has an official mammal, and it's the manatee. So when you match all that together, so tomorrow you're going to see a lot of us trying to buy this stamp because it's going to be eventually, you know, pictorial postmark, celebrity manatee in Puerto Rico. But this is why a big interest. And you'll see here that since I collect Puerto Rico, the connection is this was the Scott 801, and you'll see 1937, that's when it was issued. It was canceled in December, but it's a manatee. Manatee there. We have a town named Manatee. So people call them sea cows and all that stuff, but Manatee is Manatee from Puerto Rico. And that's what the language and all stuff connects. So that's why it's called Puerto Rico Canido, because people say that's in Florida. No, that's also Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, the West Indies. Now, if I do, this was this season. This is the last episode of this season for Warmth to Topicals. I like Warmth to Topicals better than Fall to Topicals. I'm more busy during that time frame. So hopefully my thing is to do Philtech displays. And this time is with Julia Child. Why her? Because when I was young, I was the remote control for my parents. So this is one of the shows they wanted to see. And the thing was, I'll go to the bathroom and she'll start cooking something. All of a sudden, in less than a minute, it's all cooked. Because I didn't know that she had all these ovens pre-cooked, like in steps. So my thing is to use Julia Child, not to sound like her, try to imitate her, sound like her. But the thing was, she really motivated me. And so I want to do displays. And we talked about it a few times ago with the Indiana group. And we showed them to do stuff, so basic displays to get people to collect. So hopefully for the next season, Warmth to Topicals, I'll be able to show that. And that's kind of the idea that just popped in my mind this week and said, let me do that. Now, the final slides are, of course, Puerto Rico. We're trying to make our San Pedro a national word. Of course, I'm not the one that's going to dictate. It will be the people that live in Puerto Rico. They have choices. Hopefully, they'll correct the scientific name. There's an official organization, SOPI, which is a Society of Ornithologists in Puerto Rico. And, of course, the Cornell Lab, which I'm a subscribed member. And there is an awesome website learning about birds of the world. And, of course, it's based on the latest information, and things do change. And so it's there. Of course, I promote all these societies, which I'm a member of, Society of Puerto Rico, ESPER, the penguins, which is a bird that I collect that even though they don't fly. The big three, which is the APS, American First Day Cover, ATA. Of course, I'm not going to too many shows this year, but my goal is Boston 2026, the World Show. If you've been to one of those, that's every 10 years. That's such an important show to be at. You'll meet so many people, and that's the intent, to meet people, share stamps, and make this a better world. And of course, beyond the perf, this is philately. That's kind of my thing now, my motto for years. I had to wait to the post office to stop using beyond the perf, and then I was able to use it. And of course, I don't do AI, I do CI, which is creative ideas. And the biggest thing is to learn, travel, and connect with people, places, and things. Appreciate everyone for their time. Gracias. Thank you. And of course, don't forget to visit AmericanTopical.org. And these things, like I said, these are possible because of funds, donations, and membership of the ATM members. So if you agree with this presentation, if you are a member, a chapter, or AT study unit, I'm your ATM ambassador. Anything you need, you can contact me. That's why the email's there. And that's the main thing. And then for the last stamp, which I said is question but summary. Of course, I talked about the Todidae families, where they lived, how to travel, what they eat, books related, stamps related, where to go to. And the biggest thing is that the focus and the cost is that to make these corrections on the birds, to call them by their proper name, and of course, collect other areas of interest. And here is a question which I'm going to add to my website. Is like yes and no, and it's from Sweden. So 2 stamps. You know, when you go to websites, it says you want to accept cookies, and you're like, oh my god. But here's like yeah or nah, you know. And then you have Cookie Monster there too, because then you get motivated. So you have to get the people there. Besides make it a more responsive website. But now I'm open to questions and comments. I know tomorrow, if you walk somewhere and you see a bird, it's going to really hit you what I talked about today. And that's the intent. Take you from known to the unknown. And I really appreciate it. So thank you very much. And I'm going to hit stop share.
Thank you, Felix. That was great.
You're welcome.
If